Every hack follows the same pattern. First, hackers exploit a human error like a leaked key or a secret left in code. They gain a foothold and then pivot, moving from one compromised system to the next. Teleport breaks this cycle. Open source Teleport gives every engineer, every piece of hardware, every application an identity, replacing secrets like passwords and keys with auto-expiring identity-based certificates. Learn why the most visionary businesses in the world choose Teleport at goteleport.com. Welcome to episode 231 of the Shared Security Show. And joining me this week are my two magnificent co-hosts, Scott Wright and Kevin Johnson.
Magnificent. If there were 7 of us,
yeah, we need 4 more.
Magnificent would be correct.
Oh, the Magnificent 7. Yes. Wow, that'd be a lot of co-hosts.
That would be a lot of co-hosts.
That's like herding cats. I don't think I can handle that.
It's out of our league.
Barely handle you two. I know. Well, we have some interesting stories this week, and we actually have one from the land of maple syrup.
Ah, yes.
Or shall we say maple flavored coffee?
Yeah. Who doesn't love maple flavored coffee?
Anybody in Canada? I mean, you guys just add maple syrup to everything.
It's just like
right?
ketchup. Put a ketchup in everything.
Yeah.
My understanding is you were actually made of maple syrup like that.
That might be a legend.
That
might be. Well, yeah. So apparently, Tim Hortons, which
not the man, but the
is
donut
that your
shop.
number one? Yeah, is that the number one coffee shop in Canada?
Yeah.
By far. Okay.
You can't swing a cat without hitting a Tim Hortons.
That's an interesting visual.
Swinging a cat is the example we give. I've never swung a cat in my life.
Yeah. Tim Hortons is quite the thing here, and they got in trouble.
Well, definitely
bit of a privacy gaffe, let's call it.
Yes. So the Federal Privacy Commissioner in Canada, which we all know and love and mention periodically,
Danny.
I think on the
Daniel
show.
Terrio. Yeah. I call him
That's
Danny.
Right. That's right.
He doesn't know me.
Yeah.
I call him Danny.
Good old Danny. But so the Tim Hortons mobile app has been found to be basically collecting location information from people that had installed it. I think this was back in 2017 when the app first came out, apparently. Downloaded 10 million times. I mean, it's pretty significant.
You know what the population of Canada is, right?
10 million.
Under 10 million.
No, I think it's about 37 million or something, but yeah.
Something like that. So a lot of people.
I thought you were trying to make a joke.
No, just the 10.
Every single person.
1
in
in 3
Canada
people downloaded the Tim Hortons app.
That would make sense, actually, if it's as popular as a coffee chain. Absolutely. So what's interesting about it? So this research found that the app was collecting data. So no matter what setting that you enabled, right? Because, you get the prompt that says, do you want this app to use your location data? Essentially, it didn't matter that setting was even there, because even when you had the app closed, it was still collecting location data. And the scarier thing is that Tim Hortons apparently used the data to actually improve, I guess, their, hey, how many customers are going to competitors and how many customers are, drinking coffee at work versus home. I mean, all kinds of scary things that,
hey, you got the data, may as well use it.
Right. Exactly. I think it's one of those things I think is they realize that they screwed up royally, and then they just oh well, what's the might as well keep using it, I guess.
Except that if you read some of the other articles, and I want to be clear, when I first started reading this, I thought, I wonder, the way they described it, how they collected the data, but they didn't use it, but they did use it, but they didn't use it. When you read Tim Hortons' press release, the implication was, hey, we built this app. We needed location data for a legitimate reason, right? finding the closest Tim Hortons or something like that.
Send you a coupon when you're in a Tim Hortons
Right.
store.
Something like that. We then stopped using it and we never took the functionality out of the app. Was kind of how it was presented, right? Like, we decided not to collect this data, but, oops, our bad. Nobody told the nerds and they didn't remove it from the app.
Yeah.
But then when you start reading deeper into the actual, the press release from the government and the stuff like that, like, no, they knew they were collecting it. They actually went out of their way to generate events about competitors and things like that. Like, I think the key point I want to get across is how misleading I felt Tim Hortons' response was.
Yeah.
Like, we agree with government, we did the wrong thing, but it really wasn't on purpose, and we're sorry, mea culpa, drink our coffee, eat a donut. When in actuality, this was a purposeful collection and, in my opinion, invasion.
Yeah, there's another...
Right, like...
I was just going to say, there's another interesting angle that sort of goes along with that. And from reading the article, I didn't know this before, but they hired this company, right, to do the actual location gathering. And they didn't do a very good job of containing. And so it's not clear whether the third party just did it out of anticipation that Tim Hortons would want this stuff, or if it was actually directed by them. It doesn't really matter in the end. The law is, and the intent is not being met with the intent of the law. So, but it is an interesting story, sort of a good cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kevin.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, I think this is one of those cases where, we know we can. Now let's ask if we should.
Yeah.
Right.
It's true. I mean, and I think, some people on this panel once in a while say, I love it when people track me. I get better value from
me.
Yeah.
Kevin's one of those.
I say that all the time. It's not that I like people tracking me. I don't believe that's the phrasing I've ever used. I like ads that are pushed based on my interest. I like relevant ads. Don't get me wrong, I don't like ads, but if I'm gonna get an ad, I'd rather, like every single time I watch a show, I'm watching a show right now on Hulu, and every ad I get has zero to do with me. Nothing, right? On Facebook, so many of the ads I get are irrelevant because they're targeted at, because I look, like it says, why were you shown this ad? And it's like, oh, you're 18 to 55. Well, I am. And you're male, and and it's like, okay, but that's not relevant. I'd rather Facebook say, you know what? You downloaded this app that helps you study for the ham radio exam. Let's give you an ad for a book on that. Or
I think my comment on it is I totally get that, but I think everybody has a different level of sensitivity, to what they're comfortable with. And I think some people will say this is creepy and annoying and maybe even dangerous, depending on if that information got exposed. And so I think
I would say all of that.
And I think that the intent and the actions of the privacy commissioner are pretty laudable in terms of they're trying to find a standard that at least gives us a common expectation that is reasonable. And then if the companies want to gather more, as long as they tell you in a transparent way and you agree to it, then that's great.
I think the big question is, the big point there is, as long as they tell you, right? Like, let me know what you're tracking and be open about it, right?
Don't try to hide it.
Hey, we want to track if you go where you go. Okay, well, fine. I don't know. I'm not that interesting. My phone asks me every time I go to a restaurant, hey, would you like to give a review of that restaurant? And you know what? I would. So.
Yeah. I think the last point on this was there were some comments in these articles about Canada's current privacy laws and how they need to be revised, because there was no
real penalty
that was given to Tim Hortons. And I think it said something about only the
Yep,
Quebec privacy office.
Quebec government. Actually, we were talking. I should have mentioned this when we were talking about the privacy laws in Canada last week. But the Quebec government is going through a series of amendments or regulations that are rolling out over time, where it's getting very strict, and there are penalties if you don't comply.
Yeah, but even though, like, I think they said that the fine to Tim Hortons would only be 10,000 Canadian dollars, and the company makes 2 billion.
Yeah, there's a
so
slight issue
I
there
mean,
in terms of
that's like a
incentives.
slap on the yeah.
I
But
guess
so
my,
and
I
that
guess my question is, what should the fine be?
Yeah, well,
Right, like
great
what
point.
we've had this conversation before. We've seen
we
it
have.
before, right? You've got a company that makes $1 billion a year competing with a coffee shop that makes $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
They're failing, obviously. If both of them do it, how do you punish them both in a reasonable way? Because
it sounds like a case by case thing to me.
And we know how well case by case decisions go in courtrooms, right?
Well, Google in Germany, they get along well. So.
Oh yeah. I also want to ask, right? Why did the government go after Tim Hortons?
Sorry?
And here's why did they go after Tim Hortons?
Did you read about it? So this is a little commentary on our the article sharing that I received from Tom was for New York Times, and there's a paywall there, and I couldn't get to it. So I searched and I found the Financial Post, which is actually the Canadian paper that published the first article about this that exposed it, and then the Privacy Commissioner investigated it. So
so the paper said, "Hey, we saw this. Awesome, that's good. That's right. That's my question is, what triggered this? Because let's be blunt. Many of the laws we've seen in the EU, in the US, I will bet you the same as it is in Canada, have been made specifically to go after specific organizations. And we can argue whether that's good or bad or not, but we see this type of activity from the government against big companies. I worry more about the smaller companies doing stuff like this, right? Personally, I don't mean it from I don't think Canada should be worried as a whole about that mom and pop shop that's in Quebec, right? But as a person doing stuff, I'm much more leery against smaller organizations that have released apps and things like that. Mainly because I think that it's the same thing as with open source, right? There's fewer eyes on the problem. And I know that it's way easier for us at Secure Ideas to make a decision that we missed the bigger context, the privacy law or whatever, because there's fewer of us.
All right. Well, Scott, why don't we jump into everyone's favorite segment, Aware Much?
Thanks, Tom. So what is a kill chain? No, it's despite what it might sound like, it's not that moment when office employees get so annoyed at their organization's phishing simulations that they commit a felony with BDSM paraphernalia. It's a story.
Wow. That's not what I was thinking at all, but okay.
Anyway. That is not
with that.
I don't think I've ever
the kill chain. No, never mind. So the kill chain in this context we're talking about is the social engineering kill chain, where you have an opportunity to stop an attack at various decision points. So we're looking at a story of a fraud scam that targeted the employees in a business, and it impersonated employees of another company that was actually partnering with that company. And they put a really nice pretext together that said, hey, our project is supposed to be starting on Monday and we haven't gotten our first payment yet, so we're going to be postponing it. And it scared the heck out of the accounting people. And of course, under strenuous situations, people don't always follow the proper procedures for authenticating and authorizing transactions. And so they made some payments. And so this story is a really good example. There's some great, references to things like caller ID spoofing, which I talk about a lot in training, where you should never trust the caller ID on your phone to say who's calling. But it goes from, the different stages of planning and research and preparation of a social engineering attack, and where they could have been stopped, in terms of decisions that somebody could make. So I thought it was a really good article, and wonder what you guys thought.
Yeah, I agree. Because we talk about different types of kill chains just in infosec, right? And I just haven't seen one just kind of describe the way that this is for social engineering. I thought it was actually the way they laid it out really nice, especially talking about open source intelligence and how that is leveraged by attackers. So if you're not familiar with that, it's finding information that's publicly available about an individual, an organization, and then using that as a way to set up that pretext or that scenario that's going to be used to attack someone or a company. So, yeah, great article, and we'll of course link that in the show notes.
Yep. And the reason I love the story is it really illustrates that need, as you said, for giving employees scenario-based practice, handling inquiries by phone, by email, by text, or even in person, and realistic ones. Yeah.
Scenarios.
And this is exactly the kind of training that we actually provide at ClickArmor. We even have a gamified OPSEC course that covers social engineering kill chain. This is very, very nice cool that you chose this particular story, Tom. So employees can learn to spot the opportunities to stop a potential attack at different points in that research, planning, execution cycle. And also just want to mention, as part of the ClickArmor sponsorship moment here, I did a webinar this week. It was actually a new thing that I think we're going to continue on with, called the Cybersecurity Awareness Forum. It was a Zoom webinar. We had a panel, 3 other guys that we had a great discussion and cool feedback and Q&A from attendees. And some of them even were shared security podcast listeners who joined us. So I actually publish this on our YouTube channel. The recording is 30 to 40 minutes, something like that. And we're going to probably do another one next month. I'm thinking of turning this, because we did the first one on preparing for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, right? It's in October, but nobody ever gets stuff done on time. So I decided I might call our series This Month in Cybersecurity Awareness Month, without too much redundancy there,
Okay. Yeah.
So nice. A lot of good information. And if you want to see the recorded video for the first session we did, it's at our site, clickarmor.ca/CSAF, as in Cybersecurity Awareness Forum.
So let's jump into our last story of the week, which is Facebook is receiving sensitive medical information from hospital websites. So a tracking tool installed on many hospitals' websites are collecting patients' sensitive health information, so medical conditions, prescriptions, doctor appointments, and sending that to Facebook through the Metapixel. And I mean, the article I read here it was on the markup.org.
It's a huge article. It's a huge article.
Yeah, it's a long read, but
great research.
I mean, it's really good research. I mean, we've talked about these tracking pixels and things before, and kind of how these things link back to Facebook. And obviously this is information that goes to Facebook because I know back when I was on Facebook before I deleted my account, I remember seeing ways that you could actually schedule or search for doctors all through their platform. Yep. Probably to make it more convenient for you to keep you within, the Facebook app instead of going outside and scheduling. For
those people that love to live on Facebook every minute of the day.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's what they want you to do.
But I want to point out that those aren't the issue this article is about.
No, it isn't. Yeah.
And this is why I said that the headline is awful, right? The headline really should be, hospitals are sending Facebook your personal information. And the reason I say that is, Facebook did not go to these hospitals and say, hey, can we track the people scheduling for appointments? This is a case of, in my opinion, and this is one of the things in our advisory services with, because we do a lot of work with developers in their SDLC and stuff like that. And this is one of the things we talk about developers all the time, to developers, to marketing teams, to businesses. And we say, you really have to think about the analytics you are collecting. Because in almost every case, the majority of cases, let's put it that way, the majority of cases, companies use some other system to track analytics, right? Either Facebook, Google, HubSpot, whatever. And when they put these tracking things into the sensitive portions of their app, they are then enabling this problem. And that's the issue. And I get the idea of, you know what? I want to know what functionalities my people are using. I want to know the behavioral analytics of my users. But then you got to think about the ramifications, right? And like, in this case, right, they're using Facebook to track stuff, and the stuff they're tracking is pretty damn sensitive, right?
Yeah. 33 out of the top 100 hospitals in the US.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
This is a problem, and it's a problem of, in most cases, awareness. Because most people, when they think of analytics, they think of analytics from a perspective of, did you click the page? How long were you on the page? Did you fill in the form? They don't think about the fact that it can access what the form is. It can access.
That's right.
Right. It makes me think of the old finding we used to write up all the time, and sensitive information in the URL, because it would get logged. And the example was always, right, proxy servers log this, load balancers log this. But the reality is, we really shouldn't be as worried about proxies and firewalls and load balancers. We should be worried about the analytics. We should be worried about, hey, you're pulling content from a third-party site, embedding it into your content with no CSP, if you have anything, right? And then the data gets stolen. And it's your Facebook, and somebody sends you a whole bunch of information that allows you to track more information about your users, and your entire business model is to track information about your users. Okay, thanks.
I think that I'm really glad you brought that up, Kevin, because I was struggling in looking at that huge article. I was struggling to figure out, why are the hospitals sending this information? What value are they getting out of it? And clearly what you're saying is it's the analytics. They were trying to just track what's going on the pages that people are visiting.
Yeah. If you go to those hospitals and say, and I noticed they reached out, and most of them, didn't respond or declined. One hospital, said, "Oh man, we screwed up. We're sorry. We took it out. Whatever." I will guarantee you that if you dig into it, the people who made the decision to use the analytics in those sections of the site never understood that meant the analytics had access to that data.
And right? Of course, the analytics package was free. And of course, the analytics package was free.
Well, yeah, exactly, right? Like, hey, we can get you the ability to focus on what your users want. Why, as a hospital whose entire business is wrapped around taking care of and supporting and helping people, if I sell you an analytics product so that you can help them get the best service possible, that's a no-brainer. Yep, done. Enable that everywhere. But what I left out was, oh yeah, by the way, I may have access to that. Right? Like,
well, it just reminds me of the old cartoon. If the product is free, you're the product, right? Or if the service is free, you're the product.
So yeah, I think this is ignorance. I would like to believe this is ignorance, right?
Yeah. And I think this is also just we've talked a lot about third-party trackers, on the web, and as you browse and you surf, and these are things that, even if you don't have a Facebook account, Facebook is still collecting this information. And you've heard the term like shadow profiles and things like that. They can still do, demographics and other information that could still potentially lead to identifying either you in a group of people, or even you, depending on how much data that they have collected. So, this is why we're proponents of, any kind of software like that Firefox has, and other browser plugins that stop third-party trackers, to limit your exposure to these things and block them where you can. So, crazy stuff. So with that, I think that's all we have time for this week. But I want to thank you both as
Thank you, Tom.
always.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
I want to thank our listeners for watching us on YouTube and downloading the podcast. Just been great seeing the download numbers over the last couple of months. Really have been going strong. So thank you for spreading the word about the podcast. And if you do get a chance, please leave us a rating, which is on ratethispodcast.com/shared security. You can easily add a review of the show. We would much appreciate it. But with that, I will let all of you go, and we will talk to you all next week. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, hit that like and subscribe button. To catch all the latest from the show, visit our website, sharedsecurity.net. Follow us on Twitter @SharedSec, and join our Reddit community on the Shared Security Show subreddit.